Hard Reuben. Oh my God.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Hard Reuben's Force-Fed Cafe. Thanks for joining me. This episode, I get to talk to music industry mainstay and producer Andy Sneap. But this isn't any episode. We talk about the dream of every 15-year-old who's ever picked up an instrument or ever fantasized about the big time on stage with our heroes. And we talk about the moment when Andy had that 15-year-old moment when he realized he was, in fact, on stage with his childhood heroes, Judas Priest. It's an opportunity that came his way when Priest member Glenn Tipton personally selected him to step into his shoes for the current tour after determining that Parkinson's disease would be preventing Glenn from hitting the stage every night. Now, as much as it would be amazing to have Glenn where he belongs, this is a great opportunity for Andy, and I, for one, am excited as hell to see him step up and really bloody well enjoy this. I have to say, this episode's a bit sketchy in the sound area. We found ourselves sitting in the corner of a restaurant, having coffee, and having to restart the interview due to undisclosed fuckery. I saw Priest play later that day, and I'll say more in a second, but what I need to say first is that Uriah Heep, who are touring with Priest, were unfucking believable. Seriously. If you like the classic metal and hard rock even just a little, you need to know that these old dudes blew the roof off the arena. And Priest, they're firing on all cylinders. They blasted through a number of rippers from the new album Firepower, but pulled out lots of unbelievable classics from the breadth of their career. This was without a doubt one of the best shows I've been to in years, and the best I have ever seen Priest play. Here's my chat with Andy, who, as it turns out, is an all-round decent human being and a pleasure to have a hangout with.
We go again.
All right, so amateur moves.
We've all made a few of them.
Yeah. Well, that was good chat, though.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll do it again. Yeah.
Well, so let's start with you introducing yourself.
I'm Andy, and I'm a producer from England. How about that?
And a very patient one at that, if I must add.
That's all right. Don't you worry.
So let's talk a little bit. It's not going to be quite as exciting the second time around, but I'm going to talk about the story. The first time you played, there was a moment. It looked to me on stage like
with Priest. This is
with Priest. Yeah. There was a moment on stage in your first show where it looked like you were concentrating hard on doing the parts, and you looked up around you, and it was like, oh, holy shit, I'm on stage with Priest.
Yeah, that's right. It was holy shit, I'm on stage with Priest. I mean, I've said this in a few interviews where it is so surreal for me because I grew up, from my early teens with Priest being my favourite band, really. So to be in this situation now is crazy. But there's also there's over the last 2 years, and obviously being on the road with them for the last year, you just become really good friends. So it's a very relaxed atmosphere up there, with the crew and with the band. So at first, and I don't think people realise this, I was given like 3 weeks notice, 3 days rehearsal before that first show in front of 6,000 people.
Yeah, and you made it look flawless.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look back now, and obviously, it's got more comfortable now, but when you're in that situation, I try and explain this to people think you can just sort of fall into a spot like that and make it look effortless on the first show. You're dealing with a band that, I mean, obviously Richie's been in the band nearly 10 years now, but you're dealing with a band that's been together for 40 years, 50 years nearly. Obviously not all the guys have been there that long, but to just drop into a situation and it's not just playing the songs, you need to know where to be on stage. They've got certain little things they've been doing for, well, obviously with Richie and Rob, they've been up there together on stage for 10 years. So there's a chemistry up there that you've got to try and fit into, and when you put into these sort of situations, you can't go up there and just be yourself in a way. You've got to fit into these things. So it's a case of just slowly learning the way it happens, and it's teamwork. The whole thing's teamwork. So you have to try and fit in at the end of the day, and to just go up there after that amount of time learning 25 songs in front of 6,000 people and the whole internet. It's pretty damn tough. I think even a guitarist that's got, you know, some hotshot whiz kid from LA that's got all the chops would find it difficult just to drop into a situation like that. So yeah, it's funny because they asked me on a Thursday. It was the second to last day of rehearsals in the UK, and Glenn knew I was going to the rehearsals because I'd been doing some production work with them. And they asked me on the Thursday if I could step in. Friday morning I woke up feeling physically sick. And then my head was just spinning from there on. So.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So the thing that I really thought about quite a bit is that's the moment everybody dreams of. You know, when they're teenagers, they're picking up instruments and they want to do that. That the moment of like when they're on stage with their heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a teenager,
do you play an instrument?
Well, yes and no. I've played guitar and bass my entire adult life, but if I have not improved since I was 13 years old. It wasn't really in the cards for me. But a lot of my friends continue to play, and I pick up my guitar every single day. I can play Beyond the Realms of Death from start to finish, but that's literally the only song I can play from start to finish.
Right.
Is that one Priest song?
Yeah.
But I want to talk about your beginnings, because you picked up guitar when you were 12.
Yeah.
What was your kit when you were 12 years old? What was your guitar? What was your first guitar?
My first guitar was actually it was a Starway guitar, and they were I think Taisco made them in Japan. And they were a very 60s looking thing. They had light switches on for the pickups, and that lasted about 6 months. I was just learning a few basic bar chords on that. I wish I still had it, because you see them on eBay now for about £900. But I sold that and a foul combo for 50 quid. And I got a Westbury Standard, which was actually pretty cool. It had I don't know if it was a through neck or I think it was a glued neck, but it had DiMarzio pickups in it as well. And that was my second guitar, and that was my main guitar to start learning with. The first proper song I learned was Back in Black, and then it's Paranoid. And I think we did Green Man Alicia after that, strangely enough.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's fairly well known. I've been following you on Instagram. Actually, I started following you on Instagram a while back, and then which is how I found out that you had been tapped by Priest. It was interesting to watch sort of that evolution in the last few weeks before. You know, your clothes are changing to be more Priest.
My beard's getting shorter.
Yeah. Shorter. Your leather's getting studdier. It's pretty good. But at what point did you become addicted to flying V's?
Oh, that was early on.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I got my first Gibson B, a 79, a white Gibson B when I was 15. So when we were doing the first Sabbat demos, I had that. Yeah, and it's been non-stop ever since, really. And it's always been the guitar that I've played. And actually, when I started doing the Priest thing, I started trying to use an Explorer to be different to Richie. And I found it so uncomfortable on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, try and do something different. So I tried the Explorer for a bit, and it just didn't work. And as soon as I went back to a V, I was like, yeah, old friends. So I've just stuck with it, really.
I'm an SG fan myself.
I like SG. I've got a couple of SGs. And again, they're a bit more comfortable standing up, I find, because you've not got so much wood behind the sort of forearm on your right hand arm, which is what I like about these. I've just bought a Strap that I've been playing a little bit live, and that, as much as I like it, I find it an awkward shape to play standing up. So it's great for sitting down and jamming. But V's for me, even for sitting down, are so comfortable. So I've always stuck with them. Yeah.
So you're from Derbyshire?
Yeah, that's right.
Belper, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So everything. So I looked it up.
Yeah.
It looks like it's pretty quaint, natural, and
very
there's
nice.
lots of parkland. In fact, Wikipedia tells me it's got the most parkland in the UK.
I didn't know that.
In that area. So
I've learned something today.
So you're born and raised there?
I was actually born in the town where I'm living. Yeah, it's strange because I was born there, and then we moved out. We actually moved. My parents moved when I was born. We were in the woods that were about a mile up the road from me. We had a house in the woods for 6 months, and then we moved about 7 miles away. My parents still live in that house. I lived there till I was 20. Moved to Nottingham for 10 years. Lived in the city, then obviously came out to the States to work. And then I didn't really have anywhere to live. I had a small little flat house in Nottingham, that I was coming back to all the time when I was working in America. And then I bought the farm where I've got the studio now, like it'd be nearly 20 years ago now. So I've gone full circle. But I'm there a lot of the time, and I'm out. With this, I've been out that part of the year.
So you bought the farm 20 years ago. Is that when you started the studio?
No, I had the studio up and running probably about 91, 92 in some form. Just a little reel-to-reel, and then we went ADAT, and then Pro Tools. That was just on sort of an industrial area nearby. Once we got the farm up and running as a studio, we put residential stuff in for bands. So that's been running really, probably as a residential studio for about 15 years now.
Okay. So I want to talk a bit about Sabbath, and then I want to talk about Hell.
Yeah.
One of the things, you're one of those folks in music right now that is sort of in my brain, it's a little bit like Gene Hoglan. You've got your finger in everybody's pool a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because you've produced death metal, you've produced grind metal, you've produced
I think it's one of those things, when you've been around for, I've been in the business now for 30 years, it doesn't feel it, but, you do make so many contacts and sort of spread your sort of talents out, really. And as long as there's something within a certain genre I can connect with, I don't mind it. I don't stick to one thing in particular. I think it's a healthy thing to do because genres come and go, and there's certain trends within the music. So I think if you can adapt a little bit, you'll have a longer, more longevity in the business. So I've always tried to sort of see something within a genre that I like or something that appeals to me. I don't get a lot of the newer stuff now. I tend to go back to more the classic rock and classic metal stuff now because it's what my heart's always been into. If I'm going out buying vinyl, I'm always trying to find old Thin Lizzy albums or Van Halen album or a Queen album or something, just so it's. To me, the songwriting was there, and I miss that a little bit these days. And that's, to me, Priest have kept that going. Priest have got that classic, almost pop mentality to the songwriting,
Yeah, and the guys in Accept say that you're the Rick Rubin of heavy metal, which I see what they're saying.
Yeah.
But I see a pretty substantial difference.
Yeah.
Rick Rubin tends to leave his fingerprint on everything.
Yeah.
He molds everything to sort of Rick Rubin. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that you don't really try to do that. What you try to do is get the band to connect with themselves.
I think you can hear an album that I've done. I think with any producer, there's a style that they'll implement in a way because it's the way they hear something. Probably that's down to the mix as well in a way. I mean, production-wise, I always try to find the strength in a band that you can pull out and try and tighten the whole thing and try and make it focused. So I can see what they're saying. If you're the go-to guy, I think is what they're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I've become that a little bit. I mean, by the time I'd done the Priest record, I'd done Sax and Accept and Priest all in the same year, and I was kind of feeling maybe it's time to step back a little bit because you get to a point where in the public sort of perception, your name's coming up a lot, and it can be overkill a little bit. So I think you need a bit of that exclusivity in a way. So I think for me to do this has been good because it's kept me in the public eye and a different angle, really. So it was, they say a change is as good as a break, don't they? And I think it has been in this situation.
It's interesting because you just jumped ahead to something I planned to sort of ask later, and that's sort of like how you've described being a producer. That's your day job, and you've kind of continued to play music.
The production thing was always the, I have to say it. Yeah, you're right, the day job, but it was also the backup plan in a way. I always wanted to be a guitarist. I was a guy in Sabbath. When that didn't work out, I had to do something, and I didn't really know what to do. I was selling guitars for a couple of years after the band split up. But then I had the chance to my studio started getting more and more interest, and I got more and more experience in doing the live sound and doing recording. So it just seemed a natural way to go because I was still involved in being creative in the music industry, and I actually started making money at it, and I'd never had that as a musician. So I had a career in the music industry that sort of took off, really, especially once I got over to America, sort of mid-90s. Started dealing with some of the smaller labels like Century Media, got in with Roadrunner, and I became sort of the guy to go to then. So the fact that I've now been able to bounce that off playing as well, it's been great.
So has that has being on the road with Priest, has that sort of lit a fire under you a little bit to channel those creative juices into your own music again?
When I was kind of doing that, with the Hell stuff, it was nice to work with a bunch of guys that wanted to do it again. If the Priest thing stops, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with it at the moment, but I don't know what I'll do. I don't know if I put something else together, and I probably would, but I think it'd be tough going back to driving the van again. It's certainly in this situation, it's a very easy ride because you've got everything done for you, and it's on such a professional level. So you couldn't wish for a better gig, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's funny. We're just as we're talking, I've got these sort of general ideas for things I wanted to ask you, and we're just answering them as we go. It's great. And I don't even have to answer them or ask them. So can we talk a little bit? Go back a little bit to talk about Hell and Dave Halliday.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting. Truthfully, I had never heard of Hell, being from rural here, and it's really all those popular sort of top tier, the Iron Maidens, the Judas Priest, the Saxons, that really grabbed me when I was younger. Having gone back to hear what you redid with Hell, with Dave's legacy, I can't help but think, because at the time of his passing, he willed the rights to his music to you.
Yeah.
And you were, 18 at the time?
17
or 18?
Yeah, 17, yeah.
I have to say that seems to me like, with your admission that he taught you a lot about playing guitar, and he was a personal sort of hero to you. What a burden. Like, it really, and not in a negative way.
No,
it's a huge gift, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's something that, when that all went down, it's something that was there in the back of my mind, and I sort of put it to the back of my mind at the time, because I couldn't really sort of contemplate what had happened and the whole thing, really. I was only a kid, and I was focused on the Sabbath thing, and it made me really focus on ploughing. I sort of stuck my head in the sand and really focused on Sabbath and tried to get it off the ground. And it was, when something like that happens, everyone sort of scatters and goes their own way and does their own thing, because it's hard to deal with. So it wasn't until probably 10 years later that I bumped into Tim, the drummer, again, and we were obviously still friends, and we got chatting, and I'd see Tony out and about, the bass player, and then when would it have been? It would have been about 2005, something like that. We bumped into Kev again, the other guitar player, and then it sort of, I was able to sort of say, look, why don't we do something with this? Because I was in a situation with the studio, I knew the guys, we got these crappy cassette recordings of, what Dave had written and what the band was all about. So it just became a bit of a labour of love, really, we'd describe it as. And we'd get together at weekends, have a few drinks and start jamming these songs. And I didn't have any intention of playing with the band at all at the time. I was just, the guy that was sort of on the sidelines, sort of saying, why don't we do this, put this together, blah blah blah, get this out the way it was meant to be, we didn't really have any intention of putting it out as a professional album. We were just doing it as a bit of fun, so we could hear the songs recorded properly, because we'd never had the chance to do it. And then when I didn't even know Dave Bauer existed at the time, and he came down to do a voiceover on Plague and Fire, one of the songs on the first record, and he started singing, and I was just like, it's got exactly the same range as Dave Halliday had. He knew Dave, he knew the character of Dave, and because he's an actor, he kind of knew what the band needed. So it was kind of the missing piece of the puzzle to be able to do it. It would have been fantastic if Dave Halliday had still been here, or we'd had some of his recordings that we could have used, but we'd only got sort of cassette recordings that we couldn't really. We lifted odd little bits off those and got him on the album in places. but we kind of, we did what we could to kind of give it that feel, So yeah, it was a challenge. And I think we did it justice, really. I think it was good fun.
Absolutely. I'm hoping there will be more.
I don't think there won't be. I don't think. I mean, we've kind of, even before I got involved with the Priest thing, we kind of put a line in the sand and sort of said, we felt the fire had gone out of it because it wasn't really, didn't have the character without Dave Halliday's material anymore. We kind of used it all for the first 2 records. Yeah. We tried writing some stuff for the next record, and it was there was some good stuff there, but it didn't feel right to me.
Feel like hell?
No, I mean, it might be something that I use in the future, but I don't think it'd be right to do it as hell, because the whole intention of doing hell in the first place was to put Dave's stuff out there, and I didn't really feel comfortable with it the way it was coming out. Yeah. So. We're all still mates, and it's one of those things. We'll never say never, but at the moment, it was time just to put the brakes on it a little bit.
Hey gang, you feeling sluggish? Trying to find some energy for the gym, or wishing you could shed a few pounds and are struggling to find just the thing to help you? Then check out High on Life Superfoods. High on Life is the leading provider of hemp-based, nutrient-rich supplements intended to instill optimal health to those who wish to perform at the next level. Listen, I'm not just talking here. I use High on Life products myself. LIT is an amazing hemp-based, vegan, raw food blend that helps reset your body's nutrient balance and kickstarts your metabolism to get you going through the day. Use it as a shake, in a smoothie, or try my favorite. Mix it up with some cold coconut milk and cocoa, and voila, LIT ice cream. Do your body a favor, everyone. Go to highonlifesuperfoods.com and enter the code ForceFed10 on checkout to receive 10% off your order. But don't just listen to me. High on Life is used by some of your favorite bands: Suffocation, Trivium, Dark Angel, Testament, Body Count, and many more. These guys know what it means to need to keep up their metal pace. Try it and you will see the difference. I have. highonlifesuperfoods.com. Get it.
We talked a little bit about the different genres of music that you do. You've done some of the old new wave of British heavy metal bands. You've done some thrash. You've done some death. The last Carcass record was phenomenal, and I think if you have a fingerprint, it was on that, and it was good. Is there a style of music that you haven't done that you'd like to try your hand at?
I mean, I'm definitely leaning more towards the classic rock stuff, not to the point of the sort of Rival Sons type vibe, but more the sort of the Lizzie-ish rock metal type thing, some of that kind of thing. It's kind of, I mean, that's what I listen to. So yeah, just getting more of the classic guys, really.
What are you listening to right now?
Me? Judas Priest. Trying to keep riffs in my head.
Okay, so that, do you have, I have 2 questions about that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Priest album?
Stained Glass.
Okay, and favorite Priest song?
I keep joking that we should be doing Island of Domination live. Oh, it's not a joke, actually. I'm serious about it, but it's not going down very well. Favourite song? Kind of changes once you start learning them. I'd like to do Stained Glass live. Distant Regrets would be good live. Beyond the Realms of Death would be good as well, actually. I mean, I like things like Electric Eye as well. It's always been one of my favourites.
Yeah. I find it so difficult to choose. I ask myself a lot of the same questions.
Yeah.
And so for me, it'd be Defenders of the Faith, because I was like 13, and that was all over me.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick a favorite song, it'd be Run of the Mill.
Really?
Which surprises even me. I'm like, why that?
Yeah.
But it's I just think it's one of those tracks that it has all of the elements right there.
Yeah.
It's so enjoyable. So.
Yeah. I mean, Starbreaker for me as well. I love Starbreaker when we play that. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Did you produce the Arch Enemy version of Starbreaker?
No, I didn't know they'd done it actually.
Yeah, they did a version of that.
Yeah.
And it was.
I always think Megadeth should do Starbreaker. I could. It's a real sort of Megadeth-y type song in a way. Yeah. You could do a good version of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we can talk about the production. I mean, you've produced pretty much everybody. I mean, not everybody, but pretty much everybody.
A lot, yeah.
You've won a Swedish Grammy for Opeth Deliverance, which is still, in my view, probably one of their best albums. And I'm not knocking anything they've put out. It's but
Yeah, I mean, that one came out good actually. They got into a bit of a pickle with the recording on that. It was a bit of a mess, to be honest. And I think it came out pretty good. I know they remixed it for the vinyl and the re-release. It seemed a bit strange to me, but yeah, that's not my decision. Yeah.
I don't know if I like remix as much.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I always say an album's a slice of time, you know.
Yeah.
It's where the band's at, performance-wise, it's where technology's at, it's where, you know, everyone's sort of hearing it. So unless it's something drastically wrong, say the bass is missing in a mix, for instance, you know.
And Justice for All?
I said nothing. But I mean, you know, you look at what those guys have just, they've just re-released that and left it as it is, and I think they probably feel the same way about that record. You know, it is where the band was at and where, you know, and I can understand that sort of decision. It's a bit, obviously, frustrating to people that want to hear it different, but there's a reason for that kind of thing. So, and you know, it is what it is with a record. It's never finished. An album is never finished. You've just got to draw a line and say, right, that's it. And usually a deadline with the label decides that.
Yeah, for sure. So you were also nominated for a US Grammy.
Yeah,
Kill Switch Engage.
I think there's another one as well. Might have been a Cradle of Filth track or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kill Switch did, yeah.
So do these kind of accolades, I mean, these are good for business.
Yeah.
You get nominated for these prestigious awards, they're good for business. But do these kind of accolades matter to you much? Or is it just,
not at all.
You know, the band being happy with your work?
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, let's face it, the way Grammys are decided, it's garbage, if I'm honest. You know, it's just a bunch of people putting ticks on boxes that half of them don't even understand the genre of music. You know, I mean, you know, obviously it's nice it looks good when it's in print, you know, but yeah, whatever.
Let's go back to Sabbath just a little bit. You've had two go rounds with Sabbath.
Yeah.
85 to 91.
Yeah.
And then later on 2006 to 2014.
Yeah.
Is that's put to bed? You're not doing Sabbath anymore?
No, that won't happen again.
Yeah. So that was like they were Hydra, or there was a band called Hydra. When you got together with them, and you became Sabbath when you were 15.
Yeah.
It took you a few years because you were too young to get a record deal.
Yeah.
It seems to me, I did some reading and watched some other interviews with you, that you were well received, but at the same time, the industry wasn't really kind to you at that time.
It was, I mean, to be honest, we did, looking back now, we did phenomenally well for what we were. I mean, we were just a bunch of kids, we were just all, you know, a bunch of 18-year-old kids. A couple of guys were a bit older, you know, 20, 21. But yeah, we had no experience whatsoever. You know, we were just a group of four guys who were just jamming in a old ballroom near, you know, where the old studio used to be, listening to Slayer, Venom, Exodus, Merciful Fate. Martin was into the more folky stuff like Jethro Tull, you know, Marillion, as well as the heavier stuff. And so we were just sort of throwing everything at the wall that we liked and seeing what stuck, really. And going to see Hell. Hell were a big influence on us. And we got the attention of like Radio 1, Kerrang, obviously Noise Records as well. It all kind of fitted into place. Things sort of snowballed a little bit. And before we knew it, we'd got a record deal. So it wasn't too difficult back then because there wasn't many bands doing similar things to what we were doing. And we were sort of ahead of the pack with the UK sort of thrash scene. So we were in a good spot, really.
So you're sort of in between the switch of genres a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we were. Yeah, I was really into the thrash scene. So I was writing to everyone in America. I was the guy doing all the tape trading, doing all the newsletters, writing to fans. You know, it was a full-time job actually, doing all, you know, just packing things up every day. Especially when the albums came out, it was, you know, 30 or 40 letters a day. because obviously there's no internet or anything.
Yeah,
so
I remember those days.
Yeah, it was
sure.
you know, and trying to sort out the fanzines, which fanzines were worth doing interviews with, and giving tapes away because we had no money at all.
Yeah.
So it really was sort of a cottage industry, really, trying to get the band off the ground.
Yeah. I remember tape trading. You speak about trying to figure out who to give tapes to.
Yeah.
You'd get a tape, you'd listen to it. You'd record over it, you'd send it up to someone
It's
else,
funny
right?
because we were in Chicago the other day and I met up with a friend of mine, Sean Glass, who was in a band called Syndrome, and he was in Soil as well, and he's still on the scene. He does a lot of stuff with bands that I know, and we've known each other 30 plus years now, and we met through tape trading, and I've got so many friends from back then that I'm still in touch with. It's kind of a testament to the scene, really, even like the Exodus guys and the Testament guys and all those old thrash guys that I met in the 80s. Obviously, I know them all now, being a producer, but we met back then. So, Creator, I knew Miller when we were back on Noise Records. So it's nice that we've all sort of stayed within the industry, really.
Yeah, and survived.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a couple folks in the last little bit who they're almost household names when it comes to heavy metal, and yet there have been moments where it's like, well, and you talked about it a little bit, time to get a job.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think we all go through that, and we sort of claw our way back and find a little niche for ourselves, And
the industry is notoriously, I mean, you're either way up here,
I'll tell you,
or you get nothing.
when Sabbath split up after we'd done the third album, that wasn't well received. You could not get someone to pick the phone up to you in London. Any of them, they drop you like a hot brick. It's so fickle, the industry. And it did make me kind of smile a little bit when I started getting a name for myself as a producer, and all of a sudden, certain old friends started creeping back into the picture. It's like, oh yeah, I remember.
Fair weather friends. Fair weather friends. So was there a time, I mean, you had to work selling guitars, but was there a time that you thought, I'm just going to have to be one of those people that has a job?
Well, then, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I was quite happy doing it because I'd actually had enough of the music industry after sort of 5 years trying to make something of it, and not, and I actually had some money in my pocket for once. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone has to do their own thing in life, and I've been very, very fortunate to find something that I love doing, and it's worked out for me. That doesn't happen for everyone. So, I do count my blessings, and the fact I'm here doing this, and it's. This is a dream come true, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, I think the thing about me, I've always put 110% into everything that I do. I really have thrown everything at it. I haven't got a family back home. I haven't.
Your wife and kids?
No. I've got a girlfriend back home, and she puts up with me. But it's difficult, when you're away from home this amount of time.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's very, very tough. So I think if I was in that family situation where I got kids to support, my life would be different. But I really have channeled everything into doing music and focusing on work. I always have done, and it's always been my number one goal.
Yeah. Priest is at that level where if you wanted to, suppose potentially could come on the road. Do they do that at all?
Yeah.
Bring your
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But
that makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing. From when you compare sort of doing something like Hell, that's not earning money. It's earning a little bit of money, but it's rough. You'll be sleeping in the back of a van at Calais. If we've done that before. To something where obviously it's hotels like this every night and decent transport, catering. I actually live better on the road than I do when I'm home. I get my laundry done for me.
Oh, there's vegetables.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of vegetables, all right. Yeah. So yeah, it's I forget where we're going with this, but it's a very comfortable life, put it that way. So
yeah,
it's
that's
great.
good. Yeah, that makes it a little easier to have spouses that can't be always on the road, that sort of thing. So you're a bit of a gearhead. We've talked a little bit about your love of guitars. How many guitars do you have?
I actually don't know. It's over 40, somewhere between 40 and 50. Yeah.
And you've picked a couple up in the last couple of years?
Yeah, a few. Yeah, I've actually been digging some old Gibsons out on the road. I've got you want me to bore you with this?
Yeah.
I've been sort of going after the 80s, late 70s, early 80s Gibson. It's weird because I've gone full circle. I've been buying old Marshalls again and old Gibsons. But there's something about them that works, especially for the Priest sort of situation. So when I was out in Japan this last time, I picked up an 81V and just like 90s Jackson I picked up as well. I've picked up sort of 3 or 4 80s Gibsons recently, 77 Strat as well. Just a few little bits and pieces. Yeah.
So have you tweaked your sound in Priest as you go?
Yeah,
I know you're into Kemper profiling. Did you sort of say, okay, I have to do Glenn's bit, I'm going to take Glenn's profile?
I didn't take Glenn's profile. I sort of just went with an amp and we just kind of tried to make it work as we've gone along. Me and Martin, the front house guy, were at loggerheads a little bit to start off with, but we've come to a compromise with things, and it's a case of trying to get something to fit in with the overall mix, and he's got his way of doing things and I've got my way of doing things. It's a case of trying to meet somewhere in the middle. So we've ended up using valve power amps and going a bit more of an old school way on stage, which it's been cool actually. And actually I've been with the guitars, I've been winding the gain back a bit and getting a bit more rock as we've gone on. Some of the pickups I've been using have been less higher output and just a bit more dynamic. I think it suited it, but you kind of you feel this out as you go along a little bit. We don't rehearse, so it's kind of do a gig, watch the video back. Right, we'll change that bit,
So you've come in and you obviously had, it seems, at least from the outside, that you've had a pretty good hand in helping select the set list based on the things that you love.
Well, yeah, it's kind of cool because obviously you've got 3 fans in the band with Richie, myself and Scott. So we'll, in the warm-up room, we've got a little warm-up room with an electric kit and some amps. We'll just start jamming some of the older songs, put a bit of an earworm into Rob, a bit of Starbreaker here, a bit of hot rock in here, and he'll hear it, and we sort of drip feed him ideas. And obviously if we can all play it, it's easy for us just to get up there and throw some different songs in the set, which I think the fans have really appreciated, especially this third time around, because we couldn't really come back on the third run and play the same set again. So that was the whole idea. We're only going to do sort of 8 or 9 new songs in the set originally, and then when I was home before coming out, I thought, I'm just going to learn a ton more stuff and I think I know over 40 odd songs now, so I just learned a load of songs that I liked. I thought, well, if we can get a few of these in the set, it'll be great. And then when we got to rehearsals, we started just jamming over different stuff, and before we knew it, we had a whole different set worked out.
Nice.
And it's great because we've actually, I think we've played 9 songs off Firepower live now, which is kind of unheard of for the band. So it's great.
Yeah, you're kind of getting up into almost the full album.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's Flamethrower, Sea of Red, Lone Wolf, and Children of the Sun that we haven't done. I think there's one more as well. So, we could throw those in the set sometime, I'm sure. Yeah. So.
Will there be any surprises tonight?
No.
You don't have to tell me what they are.
I don't know really. It depends if you've been following what we're doing or not.
Oh, I've been following. Yeah. It's like I said to you a little while ago. I think off tape, that I've been very excited about this current version of Priest. We obviously having Glenn up there would be ideal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that he handpicked you, which in my view is like 15-year-old me's dream.
But 15-year-old me dream
right?
as well.
It's like you want me to do what? Okay, great. So I've been feeling excited for you. Just watching your progression and that moment that I talked about in your first show. I didn't know if that's how it really went down, but that's how it went down for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that, and that's exactly what that face would have meant for me when I. Holy shit! Right?
Yeah.
And
I think it was in the solo in Sinner actually, because Rob came right up to me, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Do you know who you are?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, it is mad. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. And I really I just want to say. Thank you.
Yeah,
you've actually, in my view, I think you've helped I mean, they do a lot of the work themselves, writing songs, doing this stuff, but there are a lot of bands that you've spent a lot of time with that has put out, in my view, some of the best material of their careers. I can think of Testament, first of all. I mean, they kind of fell into this atmospheric thing where they were still there, they were still putting out records, but nobody was really sure where the fans stood on the new material, because they really kind of Chuck particularly, they really went from that pure thrash to, well, let's bring in some of this guttural, growly stuff of the new death metal, and there were some fans, I think, that maybe weren't ready for it at the time.
Yeah.
But their last several albums are killer.
I'm actually mixing the new album as soon as I get home. So
I was wondering about that, because I know they've been in the studio.
Yeah. I literally start a week after I get back, and I think it's going to be a really good one. Actually, I've heard the demos, which are just riff based at the minute, but what I heard was killer. So I think Eric's really pulled out all the stops on it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've got a friend. You guys played in London, Ontario, not too long ago, and I had a friend that went to that show, and he and I, after Dark Roots of the Earth came out, you know, when we're texting each other and things like that, after that album came out, I think I just sent him a text message that said, when I say rise up, and he texted back, war. And that's become our hi, how you doing, you know? It's such a great moment. And so Andy, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and life on the road has a lot of demands. And I really am grateful that you took the time to spend some with me.
No, I don't mind at all. No problem.
All right.
Thank you.